Hi there, this is Eshu. I'm the abbot here at Zenwest Buddhist Society. This Living Zen-podcast is just one of the many resources we've created at Zenwest to make Zen practice and training more available and accessible to people all over the world. Instructional videos, printable resources, and much, much more are also available on our website at www.zenwest.ca. If you're a regular listener, I'd love to hear from you. So please drop me an email at office@zenwest.ca and let me know who you are, how you got started, and what brought you to Zen. Everything we make available in person and online at Zenwest is only possible because of the support of our members and associates, people like you. If the efforts of our community are making a difference in your life, I'd like to invite you to show your support and take part in making it happen by becoming an associate or member of the Zenwest Sangha. You can do this by clicking the Join Us tab on our website at www.zenwest.ca. Thank you for your support, and thanks for listening.
Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I just want to start by first of all, welcoming Kendo back to the Zendo. It's been a while since Kendo's been able to be here, and I'm really glad to see him back. New Year, over the break, I was really thinking this, going forward, I'd really like to do something with the community for a New Year's acknowledgement. It's an old traditional thing that's done in Zen, is to have some kind of acknowledgement of the passing of the year. So I'm hoping that for the 2016 New Year that we can have some kind of ceremony. Usually it involves fire and cleaning and ringing of bells and setting an intention for the new year of practice. I'm keenly aware this year in particular of how very happy I am to see the back end of 2014. Things for me personally look really interesting for 2015. But I'm also really cognizant of the fact that some people had a really fantastic 2014 and that 2015 looks really difficult. So it's always the vicissitudes of life that we've got to acknowledge, the marking, the passage of time, the passage of difficulty. And I think it's really important to share those things with each other. We're a community, and that's one of the things that we're, I think, really aspiring towards developing is a healthy community. One of the values of community, certainly one that I've really felt over the past year, is this wonderful variance. Is when you're perhaps when you're struggling through a difficult time, when you're finding it hard to keep level, being in a community means that hopefully there's somebody in the community that isn't. There's somebody in the community that's doing really well, and the strength of that community can provide you with support and joy and refuge while you're going through a difficult time. But it's important also when we're in community together to remember that that the community isn't just for us when we're going through a hard time, and that when we're doing well, we're doing well, so we don't need the community. We have an obligation, we have a responsibility to our fellows in community as well, to support them, to be there for them, to practice with them. And sometimes that's all it is. And I think that that's one of the things that it's easy to forget when we come together to practice like this, because we don't talk in formal practice, is that people come here for all kinds of different reasons. We don't always know the reasons. Sometimes there's no reason. Sometimes there's a lot of reason, and we don't know. Sometimes it's easy for us to come, joyous for us to come. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to turn up, roll out of bed, drive over to the Zendo and sit. And I think that sometimes it can be very helpful for us to realize that our practice isn't just for us, that we're not just practicing for our own benefit, but for the benefit of our fellow practitioners, but also to put the sort of Mahayana Buddhist perspective that when we practice, it makes things better for everybody all over the world. And it's not just a sort of woo-woo kind of metaphysical statement, but if each of our relationships, if each of our interactions is impacted by our practice, then there's this sort of multiplying factor. We transform the world through our practice. Our community's been through some many ups and downs over the years. And currently I'm just interacting with another community that was a huge support to me when I was really struggling, when our community was really struggling. And for that support, I'm very grateful. And recently, as that community entered into a real sort of crisis period of difficulty, several people from that community reached out to me and asked me if I would be willing to help and opine and participate in clarifying the issues that are going on there. And of course, be willing to help. Because the truth is that what we've been through, the structures that we've put in place organizationally and even interpersonally in my own teaching, are fruits of the support and the kindness that was offered to me during a difficult time. So I feel like it's selfish not to be able to turn around and share there as well. This practice is one of continuing and continuous awakening. I think that when I first started practice, there was definitely within me a real idea of accomplishing or arriving or attaining. I'm going to get enlightened or have enlightenment. Won't it be great when I'm an enlightened Buddha? And I realize, and I hope that I can express to everybody that this awakening is not an object or a place, but it's an activity. And to my knowledge, to my experience, what I've seen and what I've lived through myself, I don't know that there's a bottom to that awakening. I don't know that there's an end point to that awakening. I do know, certainly, that the feeling that you've arrived or the experience that you've actually obtained something lasting and real is the most certain cue that you're deluded that I've come across. This year that's just passed, we've had struggles of all kinds. I was away for a big part of the year, and when I was here, I was just sort of struggling to keep my head above the water, financially, emotionally, inspirationally. And it was with the support of this community, the structures, the governance, all of the little things that nobody really even sees. Small messages of support from members. We got through. And we didn't just get through. I feel we managed to do some significant things. Even in spite of all the financial stresses and the absence of the no-show Osho, we managed to build this amazing hermitage that's outside. We managed to develop some significant relationships in our community. The membership remained stable. So I feel like the crisis was weathered, not just survived, but actually weathered with strength and with cohesion, unification of purpose. And although 2014 sort of leaves me with a really kind of bitter taste in my mouth, there's a part of me that's deeply satisfied and deeply joyous for what we're creating here together. When I look forward into 2015, of course there'll be things that are difficult. Of course there will be challenges. But I also feel a tremendous amount of momentum that's building. Momentum that we've been creating for many years together. When I look around at what other organizations and spiritual communities are doing, I'm very happy with what I see in our community, across the board, in our practice, in our organizational structure, and most importantly, I think, in our relationships between us as individuals and as groups. Creating a harmonious, unified, but not uniform community, and sustaining that for a significant period of time is a really difficult thing to do. I mean, I think each of us, having come through the holiday season, hopefully we've all had an opportunity to spend some time with family. And you can see that even when there's deep, deep bonds of love, maintaining a harmonious, functional, healthy relationship between a group of people, 4, 5, that's hard. Doing it with 50 or 100, it's a full-time job. And it's everybody has to voluntarily accept their responsibility for being a part of that, for accepting and asking when we need things, and for being generous and open-hearted when we have things that we can give. And finding the balance, always trying to find the balance. And the balance, I think it's important that it's not something that we find. It's not something that I need to find my balance in this. It's like riding a bicycle. You don't get on the bicycle and just find your balance and then sort of flip the balance switch off. It's a guiding principle that we have to use all the time in our practice. And that's why we practice. Developing this sense of balance starts in our own sitting, and as we continue to practice, it begins to permeate like a bag of Tetley in boiling water every aspect of our lives, so that when we're in relationship with our family, or in relationship with our work, or in relationship just on the street, we can very quickly sense when things are out of balance, when we're dipping one way or the other. Certainly, That's the first part. The second part is figuring out, through practice and experience, how to regain balance, how to adjust when things are out of balance. Because a lot of the time, knowing we're out of balance, I think we all get. A few days with family over the holidays, we can say, I'm out of balance. But a lot of the time we say, and I don't care. I'm going to say this, or I'm going to do this. So, in a lot of ways, this practice that we have together, this community that we have together, I talk about our meditation practice sometimes as a laboratory, developing the tools that we need to be able to investigate our own minds and our own hearts, to be able to sort of dissect our own conditioning and our own fixations, our own aversions and attachments. And I think that this Sangha, this community that we build together with intention, with clarity, with compassion, is also a grand experiment. And it's a great laboratory for us to explore with people who are voluntarily there, how to build loving, compassionate, harmonious relationships. Because I can say, from the little experience that I've had working in this community and making relationship with people, is that it's actually a pretty beautiful thing when it happens. Over the holidays, I had an interaction with my own sister, which was just a real, we had a conflict. And so I just sat down with her and clarified a few boundaries around our relationships, changed a few things, and just identified that the reason that I was changing, we were changing those boundaries and aspects of our relationship was that I cherished our relationship, that it was important. And the changes had already kind of happened, but they hadn't been named. And so it wasn't that big a deal between my sister and I. But then when we got in the car, it was Nikki who said, that was amazing. She said, it's just so rare to see grown-up people relating to each other like grown-ups. And for me, the ability to relate, for me, comes directly from developing this practice, my own practice first of all, but even more so in developing and thinking about how to do relationship with people. Small groups, large groups, and accepting my responsibility in those relationships. So, our community has been through some difficult things, and I've certainly had some New Year's talks or New Year's Day kind of aspirations for the year that have been far more bombastic than they are this year. Things like, we need to, create an organizational structure so that we can just survive, or we need to figure out how on earth we're going to raise the money to just survive this year. But I feel like our community and our organization and our practice has developed to the point where, at least for this year, I don't have any flags to carry into battle. All I've got is just joy, and all I want for this year is more of the same. I want our path to just continue in the direction that it's going, because I feel like it's headed in the right direction. And I feel like the relationships are headed in the right direction. I feel like the finances are headed in the right direction. I feel like the practice is headed in the right direction. So all I can say is thank you. Really, thank you for supporting this endeavor, not just with physical resources, but with your hearts and with your butts. And just to encourage you, more of the same. Just keep on trucking. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.